Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. Today we're going to be featuring the Tier 6 Light American Cruiser Atlanta, which back in the day used to be the most fearsome HE spamming menace known to mankind, and today is rather power-crept with plenty of HE spamming ships in the game that can play the HE spamming meta much better than this ship can due to longer range on the guns, better shell velocity, and the like. But that doesn't mean the Atlanta can't still be effective. In fact, it can be very, very effective indeed, and it still does excel at dealing with enemy destroyers more so than many of the other cruisers in this game, although there are other cruisers that are excellent at dealing with destroyers. You'll also note that I'm in a division with two other community contributors, Juice the Goose and the Monk 52, both of whom I have featured on this channel before, so you should be familiar with them by now if you've been following me for a time. But if you've never heard of them, you might consider checking out their channels. You can find a link to them in the description. Although this game really isn't about my division mates and the support that they do or do not provide me, or the support that I do or do not provide them. Instead, this is going to be a lovely, refreshing example of random people on the same team working together to win the game. Now, as we begin things, we've come out here to this Charlie flank. Our division mate is inside of the Charlie cap. I believe that is Juice the Goose in the destroyer, the Kid, it seems, and he, along with the other destroyer, are trying to take this cap. They are being contested by, I think, the Lo Yang out there, which could be a problem given that the Lo Yang has excellent sonar, but we've managed to put ourselves in a position behind some islands where they can't quite see us until this Paolo Emilio makes his presence known. And we're going to immediately open fire on him, since he's a much more important target than the Odin out there, who we have done some high explosive damage to. The Paolo smokes up, of course, but we're able to radar him, so he cannot escape. And, well, it looks like his other destroyer teammate is probably spotting our teammates for him, but in that situation, if he didn't have that destroyer teammate spotting for him, he would have been trapped inside of that smoke screen, revealed by our radar, with no way to see any of the enemies shooting at him, unless, of course, I was close enough to him to be spotted even though he's inside of his smoke, because of course smoke screens work both ways in that sense, and so does the smoke screen penalty. In any case, the Paolo Emilio has been removed from the game, and the other destroyer is still inside of this cap. Poor Juice over here looks like, well, something bad's going to happen to him in a second, and he may not be super thrilled that I'm featuring this game with this moment in it, but I mean, I don't know, if it makes you feel any better, Juice, I don't know if you remember when we were streaming this, but I potatoed plenty well enough for the two of us, so you potatoing once isn't that big of a deal. In any case, we have nothing better to shoot at until we can find the location of that other enemy destroyer, so we resume our campaign of harassment on the Odin, not quite aiming our shots well enough and shooting full volleys rather than the ripple fire. We're still hitting the Odin. It'd be nice if we got a fire, but we are, of course, running the equilibrium of power skill on this cruiser, so that we can penetrate, I think, what, 27 millimeters of armor with these 127 millimeter guns? I think that's the amount we can penetrate with EOP. That, of course, comes with the downside of decreasing our fire chance, but it's fine. The Odin is running away on the edge of the map, and he is sailing straight north for the other map border, so he's taking himself out of the game, being pursued by two Gneisenau's who are probably not spending their time as wisely as they might be able to. What we need to do is take out this destroyer, and there goes Juice to the torpedo from the Lo Yang, which is unfortunate, but we're going to see if we can't avenge him here by taking out the Lo Yang, who is far too close to us, and as I said, the Atlanta remains very, very good at absolutely shredding enemy destroyers. If only we can actually hit this guy and aim well. Come on, there he goes. There's our first kill of the game. We take a shot from the Odin, and we've got more Odin shells coming our way, but just high explosive, so really it's not that big of a deal. Still spotted, likely because of the last remaining enemy destroyer, whose location we do not yet know. We're going to park behind this island momentarily, let our firing penalty come off of cooldown, and now that destroyer is close enough to spot us without us having fired our guns, which means he's within 9.7 kilometers of us, and our radar is about to come off of cooldown. We'd like to be able to secure this cap. Oh, we don't even need to use the radar to reveal the destroyer. He gets spotted regardless, and hopefully we're going to be able to take him out here as well with the help of our friendly Friesland, who is about to become the star of this video. Now that we've captured the Charlie Cap, we've got the Odin running away to the north border of the map. The question is, what do we do? We're almost even on ships, although we are down by 1 ship. We've lost 4, whereas the enemy has lost 3. The key here is that the enemy has lost all of their destroyers. But, luckily for us, our Friesland remains floating, and that gives us the destroyer advantage. The question is, what do we do here? It appears that the Alpha flank is severely compromised. There is only 1 battleship left alive there. You can see he's hiding behind an island, and there is a cruiser playing catch the torpedoes around the island with him, so he's not likely to, well, you know, there he goes. I was about to say he's not likely to survive long, but he wasn't even able to survive for long enough for me to finish that sentence. So that pretty much seals the deal. There's no way we're going through the center of the map toward the Alpha Cap, because if we do, we're going to meet 3 battleships and a cruiser. Instead, we're going to go toward the Bravo Cap and try to flip that. We can assume that the cruiser, who is throwing torpedoes at that Colorado from around that little island, is probably going to go to Delta and try to cap it, and really there's going to be nobody there to stop him. So if we can get into Bravo, at least we can keep the same amount of capture circles as we have. We're behind on points and behind on ships. The 2 Gneisenau's are still chasing that Odin to the map border, and they still have yet to sink him. So they're tied up, I think, until they can sink him, which essentially means it's up to just me and the Friesland to do something about winning this game. If you're going to chase kiting ships like that to the edge of the map, you have to be aware that you may be foregoing playing the actual objectives and doing whatever is necessary to win the game. Killing this Odin is not necessary to winning the game, but the 2 Gneisenau's are unfortunately pretty committed, and they are not going to uncommit to that Odin until he's at the bottom of the sea. Now we come out here, we spot the King George. I think the other enemy battleship, at least one of the other enemy battleships, is also in the area, and as I predicted, the enemy cruiser is in the Delta Cap, nearly having it flipped. The question here is, what do we do? The Atlanta, of course, relies heavily on sitting behind islands, using them as concealment and cover, and raining down high explosive on ships that are pushing in. Unlike its sister ship, the premium USS Flint, it does not have a smoke screen. But sometimes, if you ask for a smoke screen from your random teammates who you've never met before, sometimes they'll even give it to you. The Friesland, in the best Chad move of 2022, lays down a smokescreen upon our request, and we're able to use it. The Friesland smokescreen is excellent, by the way, because it does have a very long duration, so hopefully we can sit inside of it for the full duration and rain down high explosive spam on these battleships. You can see it's quite effective against the King George, who is not very heavily armored, and who we can penetrate in many locations on the ship. He is taking himself behind the island. We should still be able to lob shots over it for a time until he reaches the furthest leftmost side of that island, where there is a gigantic mountain that I think is going to catch our shells. Now, the King George is no longer on fire. We're hoping that we're able to light a fire on him before he disappears, but of course we don't. The Colorado is coming into our range, though, and the Colorado is coated in 26 millimeters of armor everywhere, which means our high explosive shells are going to essentially penetrate him everywhere. We just need vision, and we have it, courtesy of that Friesland, who is doing exactly the correct thing and not sitting inside of the smoke screen, but instead spotting for us and allowing us to rain down our high explosive on the battleships. So the Colorado is making a beeline for the same island as the King George, but he's going to have to endure the golden shower of high explosive all the way there. And you can see he is quite frustrated about this. He is shooting... Oh, I guess he's not shooting our smoke screen blindly. He must be shooting at the Gneisenau's behind us, who have at some point finally taken out that Odin. We can see that the Charlie cap is turning red now, and that indicates that the last remaining enemy cruiser is inside of it. His location there is revealed, so hopefully the Gneisenau's can do something about that. We've got one of the battleships creeping up behind us, and only 13 seconds left to go on this Friesland smokescreen. Colorado taking himself behind the island under high explosive spam from both myself and the Friesland. We're hoping we can take him out, because at this point we are going to have to sink these enemy ships if we have any hope of winning. And at least the Gneisenau's are back in play to help us out in whatever way they can with their decidedly inaccurate guns. Hopefully they can get something done. The Colorado is nearly dead. Because of our positioning amongst these islands here, we are still unspotted, despite the fact we are no longer in smoke. So hopefully we can stay unspotted long enough to rain down the necessary amount of fire to finally take this Colorado out. Aiming a little wonky there with the lock on, our shells falling short, but we've dialed it in now, and we should be able to take out this Colorado, or I suppose the Gneisenau will take him out for us, which is totally fine. As long as these enemy ships go down, I don't really care who gets the kill ribbon. We're going to switch fire to the King George now, who is on very low health and could, if we can hit him, be taken out within the span of a couple of these high explosive salvos. We lose spot of him, though, and we can shoot at the other King George, who we lose spot of as well, which is not great. Our Friesland is trying to get into a location, it seems like, where he can spot these guys and potentially get shots on them himself. The two Gneisenau's have been reduced to one Gneisenau, who is bow tanking these two battleships and that cruiser. He manages to take out the cruiser, which is the Flint, just as we take out the King George, and that is enough to put us ahead on points. But the enemy does still enjoy a 2-cap advantage. The friendly Gneisenau is inside of one of the caps, the Charlie cap, contesting it, which means that the enemy team isn't drawing points from it, but they are drawing points from Alpha and Delta, whereas we are only drawing points from Bravo. And that means, given enough time, the enemy is probably going to overtake us on points again. So it is probably essential that we sink this King George here. Luckily, he is the last ship left alive, and he's under concentrated fire from me, the Gneisenau, and probably the Friesland here any moment. Now, we can't quite seem to aim our shells like an actual good player here. This is a little bit of a potato aim on our end, but looks like the torpedoes of the Gneisenau come in to take out this King George. Of course, though, the star of today's video was that Friesland, who provided us with his smokescreen and allowed us to get over 3,000 XP. He follows us on the leaderboard with only 55 less XP than we had. So the two of us, thanks to that final moment there in this game, certainly carried it for our team, and it's just wonderful to see teammates that aren't even division together working like that to win the game. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.